In the dead of night, imagine standing in a silent Roman alley, as a crowd gathers around a wooden platform waiting to witness a punishment so brutal. It would feel almost unreal. To modernize, if the thought grabs you, then stay with me, and if you enjoy slow atmospheric history that helps you drift into a calmer state of learning, make sure to tap subscribe now. Ancient Rome is often remembered for its grand architecture, complex laws, and iconic emperors. But beneath the polished surface existed a darker world shaped by fear, power, and punishment, so extreme that many people today have never even heard of them. One of the most unsettling was the poena, cullei, a sentence reserved for parricide, killing one's own father or close relative. Roman writers like Cicero described how the convicted person would be sewn inside a leather sack, with animals such as a dog, monkey, snake, and rooster, then thrown into a river to drown. Scholars debate how often this punishment was truly carried out, but most agree it reflected Rome's belief that certain crimes violated the very order of the universe, and the punishment needed to symbolically restore the balance. Another punishment, used more commonly, was damnatio ad bestias, or condemnation to the beasts, where prisoners were sent into the arena to face lions, bears, or other wild animals. While it sounds like pure spectacle, historians note that it originally emerged as a tool of state intimidation. It reminded the public what happened when someone challenged Roman authority. And though later it became entertainment, early accounts describe it as a grim, quiet affair, more execution than performance. Then there was crucifixion, perhaps the most infamous form of punishment from the Roman world. Romans did not invent it, but they perfected it in ways that were deliberately slow, humiliating, and excruciating. According to multiple ancient sources, the process could take hours or even days, and its purpose was not just physical torment, but public degradation, a warning to anyone who dared threaten the stability of the empire. Scholars still debate certain details, including nail placement and whether victims carried full or partial crossbeams, but all sources agree it was among the harshest punishments Rome used. Less widely known, however, were punishments like fustiorium, typically used within the Roman military. A soldier who deserted or fell asleep on duty could be beaten to death by his fellow soldiers, a method meant to emphasize collective discipline. Some experts argue it wasn't always fatal, while others point to accounts suggesting that even if the initial beating didn't kill the soldier, he would be exiled and likely die anyway. In either version, the message was unmistakably severe. The Roman army functioned only through absolute loyalty. Another disturbing practice was the scourge, involving whips embedded with bone or metal. While biblical and historical references describe its use, recent research suggests that variations of Roman scourging differed across regions, sometimes depending on the official overseeing the punishment. There are also accounts of decimation, a rare but terrifying military sentence where 1 out of every 10 soldiers in a disgraced unit was executed by their own comrades. Modern historians believe it was used sparingly because it damaged troop morale. Yet Roman writers emphasized its symbolic power, breaking a unit so it could be remade stronger. Some punishments were psychological rather than physical. Exile, for example, might seem mild by modern standards, but in Rome, it meant losing one's identity, property, and social standing. Historians note that many Romans feared exile more than death because it erased their legacy. Then there were humiliating public punishments for lesser crimes, such as being paraded through the streets, having one's hair shaved, or being branded with hot irons. Records from the early empire describe slaves marked on the forehead, a literal stamp of ownership that could never be hidden. The legal system itself was deeply unequal. A wealthy Roman citizen might be fined or temporarily exiled for an offense that would send a slave or foreigner to the mines, of punishment widely considered a slow death sentence. Due to brutal working conditions, archaeological studies from Roman mining sites suggest that life expectancy for enslaved laborers there was shockingly low, making condemnation to the mines one of the most devastating long-term penalties. And while Rome was often seen as structured and orderly, There were periods, especially under certain emperors, when punishments became tools of paranoia. Under rulers like Caligula or Nero, accusations of treason could lead to confiscation of property, forced suicide, or being quietly executed without trial. Some ancient historians writing about these times are known for exaggeration, so modern scholars take these accounts cautiously. Yet they agree that political instability often amplified the cruelty of punishments. Even minor crimes could lead to surprising consequences. For example, some sources mention that cheating in trade or tampering with weights could result in public shaming or whipping, and despite Rome's reputation for advanced laws, punishments often varied depending on the mood, rank, or connections of the accused. What stands out across Roman history is how punishment served not only as justice, but as a form of political theater and ever-present reminder of Rome's control. These stories survive in fragments, often filtered through biased writers, so historians constantly debate what was typical versus exceptional. Still, they paint a chilling picture of a society where law and violence walked hand in hand, shaping an empire that both inspired and terrified the world. And while the ancient world is far behind us, the echoes of these punishments remind us how deeply power can shape the meaning of justice, even in civilizations that considered themselves enlightened. If you ever explore more ancient cultures or legal histories, always remember to consult reputable historians or academic sources to get the clearest understanding of the period. And that's something worth remembering the next time history feels distant or forgotten.